Hey guys, David here with a new review for the latest episode of Walking Dead entitled Sing Me a Song. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing just sporadically hour and a half long episodes? I remember a time where that type of format was saved for either the mid-season finale, the mid-season premiere, the season finale, or the season premiere. Now Walking Dead is just throwing it in there. And it's not even an hour and a half anymore. It's like an hour and 10 minutes. Last week's episode was just a little over an hour, like an hour and 10 minutes with commercials, that is. So without the commercials, it's like 49, 50 minutes. This was like an hour and 4, hour and 5, something like that. Bottom line, sometimes that just does not need to be the case. I don't know if it's like a ratings game that the network's trying to play, but it just did not need to happen because once again, we get a very cohesive and very enjoyable storyline that was, in my opinion, very meaty, with a few things spliced in here and there that I think could have been put in last week's episode. The big highlight was in fact Negan and Carl and their dynamic with one another, and how Negan was very reluctant to actually kill Carl but still punish him in his kind of age group without taking off an arm or whatever. That's Rick's punishment. Here it was removing the bandage, exposing himself, singing him a song. But I like the dichotomy that we had in this episode going back and forth, because the first half was Negan taking Carl through a tour of the compound. Not only do we see the actual exterior and how massive it is, but also how Negan controls his people, how he sets the rules, how he sets the punishment for said rules, and how that kind of has a rippling effect amongst the people in the compound. And one of those people is actually Dwight. We see Dwight, the sympathetic Dwight, once more, because all of us agree that it was kind of weird seeing sympathetic Dwight in that third episode with Daryl, and then the next episode goes back to being a dick out of nowhere. It's just like, it was just very spontaneous, but really out of character considering his development in the prior episode. Here, we're back to that sympathetic Dwight, especially since we see what was done onto him through the eyes of another character. We see another character get the iron. That's what Dwight had to go through, and without there needing to be a flashback or even dialogue, we just see Dwight looking at Sherry, I think her name is, and the story just tells itself without needing dialogue, without needing any kind of flashback, any kind of cut. We see the story unfold there, and we see it unfold a little further with scenes of Negan and his wives and Sherry and Dwight in the hallway. A little slow, but it makes up a story that I was actually interested in. And going back to that dichotomy I was talking about, I love that the episode then switched by having Negan go to Alexandra, and Carl's now the one giving him a tour with some really weird music placement, because with that music that was playing and that montage, I was expecting Negan to like pop out of the closet wearing a very, very colorful outfit, and Carl's like, yeah, and you know, that cliche montage. I was totally expecting that to happen. But believe it or not, we see some potential development, character development, with Negan in this little segment. Not only do we see Negan actually, and trust me, this is saying a lot for a character like Negan, actually apologize to Olivia for his rude comments, and sure, he goes back to being a misogynistic pig right afterwards. But him saying sorry for calling her fat, I think that's saying a lot for Negan. I think we should take that. And then soon afterwards, we see a little bit of symbolism. Not only do we see symbolism there, but also earlier in the episode where Carl takes off his bandage. I think that's where Carl was the most vulnerable, the most exposed. And also credit to Chandler Riggs for showing a little bit more emotion. Up until this point, I was complaining about the actor just being kind of, you know, and I wasn't a huge fan of him. I think he really turned himself around in this episode, especially in that scene where he had to take off the bandage and sing the song. He showed an awful lot of depth, an awful lot of emotion, and I give him credit for that. I also give credit to the potential symbolism at the end of the episode where Negan finally figures out about Judith. Judith finally discovers her, and they're out on the porch. He's rocking the baby, singing to her, kind of cooing her. And what was interesting is that it is here, the very first time, we see Negan without his leather jacket. And I think that might be a little form of symbolism going on, where he takes off his jacket, he's taking off his guard, he's exposing himself just a tiny bit, but he's only doing it with Judith. And that might be shedding some light as to where he came from prior to the zombie apocalypse. And I know that some people that read the comics might already have a little bit of knowledge to that, but for us who haven't caught up to that point yet, we can speculate of how he became the hardened villain that he is now, but where did he came from, and what is Judith gonna bring out of him? So this whole entire arc with Carl and Negan made the entire episode worth watching. The other stuff wasn't necessarily bad, but again, could have been put in the other episode, or could have been cut out of this one altogether. Rick and Aaron finding those supplies in the middle of the lake could have been cut out, because it's like, what? It was literally like, what, a minute of footage? That whole entire thing, what was like a minute total of the episode, Michonne catching that savior and forcing her to lead her to the back to Negan, again, about 1, maybe 2 minutes. That's it. Rosita bullying Eugene into making her and then Spencer being a little shit like even Father Gabriel called him, and finding the crossbow with the supplies. Again, could have been saved up for either the next episode or preferably last week's episode. What I do appreciate though, that it does in fact plant some seeds to some eventful things happening in the mid-season finale, because they all literally in unison, except for Father Gabriel. That's interesting. Father Gabriel was not there at the end, but they all come back united to find Negan back at Alexandria with a few men covering him. So what is Rosita going to be doing with that one bullet, or what does Spencer have up his sleeve with that bow? Because he's looking very smarmy there. I feel like he's going to do something that's going to get somebody killed, whether it be him, Rosita, or even Eugene. We'll have to wait until next week's mid-season finale to figure out. As well as Jesus, because he kind of disappeared in this episode. A lot of people were like, Jesus is in the truck with Carl? This is not in the comics. Yeah, well, they kind of cheated their way out of that. He hops out. We don't see him until at the very end where he's at the top, and then he kind of disappears out of nowhere. He's like a bug. Just you can't just get rid of him. But he's there. What is he going to be doing in Alexandria? Because I'm assuming he's still in the truck. So what is he going to do, and is he going to bring the hilltop with him? I don't know. We'll see. This was a very good episode that was mainly entertaining and interesting for the Carl and Negan dynamic and the story arc of how we saw the tour of the compound kind of be counterintuitive with the tour of the home that Carl and Rick have in their Alexandria town, with Negan now receiving the tour. I love that yin and yang type of dynamic that was happening. It's just very disappointing to see that the entire episode was then bloated to another hour and a half just to have all these other stories that could have been in last week's episode or something like that. They weren't bad, but God, there's something needs to happen with the editor or whoever places the episodes, because maybe they have to get fired. So I'm going to be giving Sing Me a Song a solid 8 out of 10. I can't go low, but I can't go high either. But it definitely plants some interesting seeds to lead us into the mid-season finale before we take off for 2 whole months. Hopefully they make those 2 months worth it and they leave us with something that we can thoroughly chew on rather than just nibble and just leave us hanging. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys thought of this week's episode of The Walking Dead. What do you think is going to unfold in the season finale? What are your theories? What's going to happen with that bullet? What's going to happen with that bow and arrow? Is Daryl going to do something now that he received that note with the key? Who exactly slipped him the key and the note? Sorry, I almost overlooked that, but was it Sherry? Was it Dwight? Are one of them going to get killed by the mid-season finale? Is that the big death that we might end up with? And if so, do you think that's a good one? Let your thoughts be known in the comments below. Like and share this video and subscribe for future videos coming very, very soon. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.